This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. We apologize for being a little bit late today. That's on me. I was struggling with this thumbnail. I had a concept in mind. It didn't come out very well. I don't know how to do all the things yet on the Photoshop.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's fine. Looks good.
Anybody out there who's crafty with Photoshop, hit me up. Let me know what's going on. I need to get better or hire someone, preferably the latter.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
It would be nice, but honestly, like, it's also tough because we don't really know run of show until morning of. So like I would need somebody who's available at like
on standby.
Yeah, at like 9:30 in the morning every day, where it's like, okay, these are the components of the thumbnail that I want. You have an hour. Get it to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or 9 o'clock.
Other shows do it.
They don't go live.
They don't go live, and they have a run of show.
Why is Conrad on my lower third? Get him the fuck out of here.
Bro, the orange cat is cooking right now.
Orange cat is cooking.
I hope he doesn't claw my eyes out right now.
He's feeling himself.
Well, he's very excited because his mommy is coming.
His mama's in town.
In town today.
She lands today. Little does Marley know she's not getting her cat back.
Nope, our cat now.
He's an office cat now.
I keep it now.
I might just tell her that he ran away.
Sorry, we lost your cat.
As he shows up on the podcast every single day. No. That's a different cat.
Yeah. You're watching an old episode.
We found a different orange cat.
That's Chauncey too. That's what you're supposed to do when you lose a kid's pet, right?
Yep.
Just go get a replacement hamster.
Goldfish works well with goldfish.
Yeah, I can imagine goldfishes.
I'll never forget.
Goldfish has been living for the last 15 years.
Nemo forever.
I'll never forget the ghost of Marley when I was here at the studio by myself, and I swore that I could hear Marley upstairs, and I had to call Matt. I'm like, is there someone here?
He texted me. He's like, is there someone at the office? What's going on? I just swear to God, I just heard a voice. I go, oh, that's the cat feeder. It has Marley saying, Chauncey, come time to come
so
eat.
Like
it was fucking scary.
You like record your voice onto it, and then like every time like the food comes out,
twice a day it'll go, Chauncey, time to eat.
No way.
I swear to God.
It really does.
Wait,
Dude,
you haven't heard it?
Scary.
You never heard it? Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
And it like repeats a couple times too. So it's like if you have no idea that it's coming, I can imagine that's quite the jarring experience.
The fear in your heart must be a lot.
Yeah. Very unlucky for you, Guapo. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
All right, I'll live.
Thank God.
Yeah, you'll live, but you'll be scarred.
True.
What is going on with this whole look over here right now?
This chicken is so good, man. Why do people give you such a hard time about it?
He just look at that. He just bought. It's really good chicken. It's just shredded chicken with salt.
Fried chicken with literally
But
salt.
like if you just want to consume a bunch of protein, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say it's very functional. I totally understand why people give me shit as far as like.
I wouldn't serve this as like a meal to somebody.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I guess that's the whole debate that I don't think me and others see eye to eye on is that you eat 3 times a day every single day forever. So like,
Hopefully.
you know, they're not all going to be 5-star Michelin 4-star meals or whatever.
Or a 1-star where you bring a sleeveless hoodie where they bring you food on a sandal.
Right. So you understand. So, you know, for 95% of the meals, this seems reasonable.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like function over
Form.
Well, usually it's function over fashion.
Is it?
That's the
Speaking
phrase.
of fashion, are we wearing the same shirt right now?
I don't think so.
I'm
pretty confident we're not.
It's
actually.
not the same shirt. Mine's $10 from Target.
Right.
Yours is probably $75 from Nordstrom
or
Neiman Marcus or something like that.
It's definitely not a cheap T-shirt. But yeah, same
color, same style.
We're in the same scheme, I suppose.
Yeah, olive skin.
Yeah, right. You understand.
Yeah.
As a fellow Italian.
Listen, I went out in the sun for like 10 minutes and now I'm like tan.
Exactly, Brian.
Like that's just because I'm olive skin.
Right.
It's already right there on the surface. It just needs to pop
I'm really
right
happy for you
You
guys.
get me.
Yeah.
As a fellow paisan.
That's right.
You know,
Hey,
you understand.
hey, you know?
We got this olive color palette. You know, we look
Exactly.
good in these autumn tones.
We do.
Pastels as well.
Yeah.
You know, if you were ever wondering, Mr. I don't know what your color tone is. Ghost.
White.
Casper.
Translucent.
Freckles.
and as the tanner I get, the worse.
Of course. We have to adjust the lighting scheme. Everything goes down.
It's very difficult because, like,
you called it the jaundice light.
That's the one that gives you a little bit of color. You know, makes you a little less Norwegian.
Did you know
that WPT Global is trusted by millions of online poker players?
Norwegians
in 60 plus countries, including Norway, I would assume. It has the world's largest pool of recreational players, including Tom Wheaton, who claims he's in the 510 streets just smashing. But, you know, if he is, you guys should probably get in there too. I played a little bit of 100, 200, 400 Chinese yen with an ante. I think it was a $25 ante per person, or 25 yen ante. So that's equivalent of like $30 big blind with a $10-ish ante. Somewhat big game. I got dusted. I bought it for 10K. I got to play a guy heads up for a little while. So the way that the structure works is there's a bomb pot like roughly every, I think it's 18 minutes, but it might be 8 minutes. I can't remember. And I think that for the table, which is 8 max, it's 40 big blinds in the bomb pot. And it's just divided by the number of people. So when we're 8-handed, it's 5 big blinds per person, which is quite reasonable. Mm-hmm. When you're heads up, it's 25 big blinds per person.
It's a big bomb pot.
Big bomb pot.
Big bomb pot.
Can you remind me what a bomb pot is again? Is that everybody gets to see a flop?
Yeah, everybody just goes, you basically ante and go right to the flop.
Unless you're Ralph, of course.
Right. He tends to take a little while. I mean, you know, he has a dog. That's fine. It's a good time to to take the dog to take a piss. Especially, you know, I'm a bomb pot god. So.
He brings a dog with him to...
Oh my God, she's so fucking cute.
I don't doubt that for a second.
He adopted a senior beagle. Wow. And she is just the most docile creature I've ever seen in my entire life. Just like kind of just like sits on her little like doggy bed, like, you know, kind of chin on paws, hanging out in the Bellagio every single day. Len would be fucking beside himself angry. She doesn't say not a peep. I mean, this dog is just like the most docile creature in the world. Just loves little head scratches, like chomps.
Beagles are usually
loud.
And
I had a beagle growing up.
Yeah, chappy, right?
I mean, I didn't have a beagle for long because my mom was very irresponsible, but I had a beagle briefly.
Damn.
And we called him Buddy. Buddy went to a farm,
Buddy the
which I
beagle.
believed.
Buddy.
I was 8 at the time, so I believed that, but I don't know where the fuck he ended up. He was a loud one.
Matt, haven't you learned your lesson about using the word creature?
What did I call a creature?
It's all right. He'll get it.
I actually spoke to Mickey about this.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
He called me, and we hashed it out.
That's good.
I was explaining to him that in athlete culture, like saying things like specimen, creature, things like that, it's
alien.
It's not meant to be.
It's not derogatory.
Right. It's not meant to be derogatory. It's meant to speak to the uniqueness of an individual.
It's a term of endearment.
One of a kind-esque type of idea.
Yeah. You know, you say a guy's a fucking specimen. There is no other. He's a one of one.
He is a one of one.
Yeah, Mickey is for sure a one of one. I don't think he liked my explanation. Like, I still don't think it rubbed him the right way.
Sure.
But we kind of got to the root of it at least. And he basically said that, you know, when you look the way he looks, that he views all these adjectives as very derogatory because
I get that.
I get it. Like, I wouldn't think of the term freak as being
bad,
derogatory, at least not in any connotation that I would use it. But I imagine if he hears that word, he's probably just instantly triggered.
Right. Because he's probably, maybe people have said that to him in a derogatory way at some point. So
yeah,
like sports culture, just like
this guy's a freak.
How the fuck are you supposed to beat this guy? Like,
to finish the read, because I never got to the call to the action. As an Only Friend podcast fan, you can get a deposit welcome bonus of up to $1,200 and a free Sunday Slam tournament ticket. Just use code Berkey at sign up. The link is in the description below. You can hit hashtag WPT Global in the chat. That'll also take you to the sign up link. So if you guys are in a qualifying country, be sure to get on there. I promise you the action is very, very nice.
I think that's the first time we actually went on a tangent mid-ad
Mid-read?
read. Yeah.
I bet it's not.
Maybe not, but I mean, I can't
Might be our best
recall.
ad read.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not too bad. I liked it.
Not too shabby. Did you guys happen to see the conclusion of the Gladiator WSOP event?
Yeah, for some reason
Some
that was
highlights
just on.
for sure.
For some reason that was just like on the TV.
Yeah, Jamie was over last night, and I think was her and Corey were sweating it for a minute, and I just happened to see it in passing. Just making some protein pancakes before bed, the huge. And
It's
I
been a
turn
long time
around.
since I had pancakes.
I turn around, and this man is just all in with King High, drawing stone dead on Ace 10-9. He has the King 3-0, and I'm like, what?
He overcooked.
I go, what the hell's going on here? And he just immediately gets up and runs to the road and goes, I'm dead.
That's so wholesome.
And I was like, who's this guy? I like this guy. He doesn't give a fuck. So yeah, they were like four-handed. One guy was short. It was crazy. I saw a hand where the button opened with ace 3 off, I believe. Small blind jams for 7, and the button just folds. Seemed crazy. I mean, the chip leader only had 25, but like, you gotta get in there.
I don't know what's going on, but I would want to see stacked.
ICM this is why I say ICM is for poor people, because you overcook. You just overdo it. The small blind had a good hand. He had King 9 suited, but like, let's get in there. Kind of saw the same thing with Bill Klein 3-handed. He had a massive chip lead, and I can't remember the kid's name who ended up winning it.
Leon Sturm.
Yeah, he jammed twice. First one was he open jammed. I think he had Queen 10 off maybe, and Bill just mucks Ace 9 off out of the big, covering by like 3x. He just immediately got the heads up. He jammed for like 9 or 10. Just mucks the Ace 9. Was like, wow. And then 2 hands later, actually it might not have been, I don't remember, because they were both short. Bill had like 22 million and both of them had like 8, maybe a little bit less, maybe like 6. And then 2 hands later, he raises Queen 10 off to 2 big blinds and gets jammed on for 8 and folds. It was against Ace 10 somehow, miraculously.
Sure.
But like, both of those spots, like, I'm no ICM wizard, but at some point we just got to take stands, I think.
Sure, yeah. There's like a certain stack depth you just need to win.
Yeah. So in this Gladiator event, we saw a lot of that. The man we're speaking of is Eric E.T. Trexler, who ended up getting second place in the event, but stole the hearts of everybody watching. The guy was just a madman. I think to some degree, it's easy to just criticize the play and say like, what's bro doing? But I think to some degree, he may have just understood that everybody was under tremendous monetary pressure and they don't really know how to navigate. So there was one hand 4-handed where everybody was very close. Chip leader had 25, next stack was 22. He had 15 and the last stack was 13. Button opens off of 22, I believe, with ace 3 of diamonds. And he has 5-2 off in the big and just says, we're going with it, bro. I'm all in.
Fuck it, we ball.
Fuck it, we ball. Ace 3 diamonds folds, and he just windmills over the 5-2-0.
I love that he shows it. Like,
You got to at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna dick on people, you got to remind them that you're doing it. You can't just keep that to yourself. The irony was it was against the ultimate. Like these two ended up getting heads up, and I believe that Simon ended up going on to win the event.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I was
Congrats to that man.
I was looking at the payouts of this tournament. Like, what?
Was it super flat or super steep?
I mean, they played heads up for effectively 700 buy-ins.
Okay, but the buy-in was super small, right? It was 300 bucks.
300, yeah.
So they play heads up for 200K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
think it was 500.
That's decent. Like
it was
500,
500.
300.
Yeah, 5 and 3.
Yeah.
Which
Ninth place at FT got 46,000.
Yeah, I mean that's usually 1/10 of first. That's about right.
What was in the prize pool? Because I think first place was definitely sub 10%.
This is a snap call, buddy.
I mean, I guess there's 23,000 people in the event.
23,000. Call it $300 per. You're looking at like 6 million. So yeah, just shy 8%. I think that's really good. In years past.
Yeah.
So I think this is one spot where collectively we as the whole kind of got it wrong. the first year of the Colossus, first place was $600K, despite having a $6 million prize pool, and everybody lost their minds. And I understand why, because it was the vocal minority that was upset. Which
They want it to be more?
Yes. But it was the vocal minority that was upset, and I was a part of that minority.
Mm-hmm.
And what it was people who usually play high-stake events wanted first to be $1 million so they could justify playing the Colossus.
Right.
And I was a part of that group where it's like, what the fuck is going on here, man? We're playing a prize pool of $6 million, and it's only $600K to first or something like that. It might have been even like $8 million in the prize pool. But looking back in retrospect, the next year they forced it to be $1 million. And the payouts were very skewed, where it was like a huge gap between first, second, third, whatever.
Yeah.
Looking back in hindsight, I regret taking that stance. And I think that like what they did here for the Gladiator event and what they had done in the past for the Colossus is correct. It should be much flatter up top and reward the people. I mean, you're playing for infinite fucking buy-ins. Who cares? Like, who cares if I play this event? Who cares if Bonomo plays? No one cares. They have their high rollers. Let them play those. I'll go play cash. Like, this is for the people, and the last thing that should be occurring is making it super top heavy.
Well, I mean, we looked at the payouts for the mystery bounty, where first was $1 million, and second was 500.
Right. Forcing that is just not good long term.
It's like you don't want to make like the top 3 tables in a 20,000 plus field and not get a 5-figure pay, or something. I don't know exactly how it ended up, but like if it should be flattened enough where like you make it pretty deep.
I would like to see
for it.
I would like to see the main event adopt a payout structure similar to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the main event, so it's.
But like, what's the difference between 10 million and 9 million or 8 million or 7 million or whatever up top?
It's just the number.
Well, it's hard to go back. It's hard to go back because I think like every year they want it to be bigger and first place to be bigger. For now that to like, where it's like it was 10 million, 10 million, 10 million, and now you break the record and first place is 8 million. They're going to be like, what?
Well,
why?
I think it's only been 10 million twice. The year that they guaranteed it in last year.
It was 12 when Jamie Gold.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And Jamie Gold year.
Yeah.
I think it was
last
only those.
couple years it was 10, right?
No, I think it was last year, and then 2 or 3 years ago they guaranteed it to be 10. But the COVID year wasn't 10 for sure.
That was 8.
Yeah.
Karai won 8.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like pay jumps back in the day, getting like 20 something, you got like 200K or whatever.
Nick Mamoni got 15th in 2011, and it was 750K.
Is that right? Wait, 15th was 750K?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
No, it's like 375 or 400 now.
Really?
I got 42nd in 2010.
You got 200,
and it was 210,000.
Yeah.
42nd now pays like 112.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got to get like top 100 to make 100K.
Yeah. No. Deeper.
Like 65th.
I think like top 60.
Oh wow.
You used to be able to get 100K in the top 100.
I remember.
And I think we need to go back to that sort of payout structure. Finishing 100th in the main event is fucking hard. Should be heavily rewarded.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I remember they wanted to have every final tableist win $1 million the COVID year.
It's still possible.
The pay jump from 10th to 9th
was massive.
Was like 750K to $1 million.
Yeah.
Like Asher, even with Asher in Asher's situation, when he got 10th, he didn't get $1 million and like he got 800 or something. But the pay jump.
He didn't get 10th, did he?
He got 10th, yeah.
They come back to a 10-handed final table.
Yes.
Oh,
because they played for so long.
Right.
It was like unofficial.
But that's not normal, right?
It's not normal. No.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, he got 10th, and then the jump from like 10th to 9th was greater than the jump from 8 to 7. Kind of idea. Like it was just this big thing because they wanted to do the marketing of if you final table, you guaranteed $1 million.
Yeah. Which I think that's. Listen,
it's fine, but find the pay jump somewhere else, right? Don't find it from 10 to 9. Find it from like min caching and not having these small little jumps.
Well, I just think you take it from the top.
Sure.
I just think you take it from the top, and now instead of worrying about that 10-to-1 ratio of 9th being $1 million, first being 10 million.
9 to 1, 8.
Yeah, you make it like 9 to 1, 8 to 1, something like that. You take that extra couple of million, and you flatten out now 100 down.
Yeah, I mean, when you really think about it, like these pay jumps for these very big tournaments, and like obviously it's not to make it about me in any sort of regard, but like even final table in the Scoop main was 10 buy-ins for a 10K.
Yeah.
We got like 500 entries, but you get 10 buy-ins. Sure, like 100K is a lot of dollars, but in relation to the buy-in of the tournament,
Right.
it's like when you look at the jumps in this thing, it was 100K, 127, 182, 230, 300. It was infinite for first.
Right. Yeah. It was 100 buy-ins for first.
First was $1 million.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
common. It's 10 to 1 between ninth and first is very, very,
Yeah.
very common final table payout.
It doesn't seem like a little bit like very top heavy. You think it's just normal, or it should be changed? Because it doesn't have to be that way, right? It's just what's been for X amount of time. They could change it if they want to.
So back in 2011, it was 80. It was 8.7 to first. Ninth was wasn't even $1 million. It was 782.
Right, about 10 to 1
that
again.
was maybe you're thinking of a different year, because 15th place that year only paid 478.
Oh, Mamoni might have been before. For whatever reason, I was thinking it was Phil's year, but it must not have been. It might have been like 2009.
Phil's year was 2009.
No, Phil Collins?
Oh,
2011.
bet you meant Phil Ivey.
No.
Man, it just seems
Too many
like
Phils.
it just seems like 9
yeah, that
to
was
1,
Phil's year, I think.
10 to
11.
1 for like something like the main seems like so. It seems like a lot, right? You think it's just kind of normal?
I understand what you're saying. With an event that large, I think it's quite reasonable to scale things in a lot more flat way.
It kind of incentivizes in the sense like.
And I could have been
see
wrong too,
infrastructure.
man. It might have been 500 for 15.
Yeah, well, no, 15th was 633 in
Okay.
2009.
Yeah.
So
That was the year
2000
Benba and Mamoni both went deep.
Yeah, and then first was very similar to the year, 8.5. That's where they guaranteed you got $1 million. You got 1.2 for ninth.
Wow.
So 1.2 for ninth.
So that's more what Landon's talking
yeah,
about.
1.2 for ninth, and then 8. So it wasn't 10. It wasn't like a tenth of first. It was 1.2 and then 8.5.
That's kind of what Landon suggested.
Yeah, that seems like more reasonable. And maybe take pay jumps like these weird
You only got
jumps.
47,000 for 91st place. 47,000.
47?
How many
Yeah.
entries were there?
Wow.
There were 60, just shy of 6,500.
Yeah. That's
You had to get 63rd place, to get to break the
So
six-figure
like
mark.
basically a top 1%, like in the sense of you 1% of the field left
yeah.
to make 10 buy-ins.
You got a $500,000 for 18th place.
I mean, honestly, like I would advocate to pay more from 100 down just in general and flatten everything there. But if you're going to concentrate money up top, I'd much rather see it be within the final 3 or 4 tables than just the exact final table.
Also, min cash was 21,000, where now it's only 15.
Yeah. Which is yeah. They only pay 10% back then though.
Oh,
as
you're
opposed
right.
to 15 now.
You're right. They only paid $640.
Do you like that they pay 15?
Yes.
For the main, yeah. For the main, you absolutely want.
Brian needs them dollars. baby.
Yes.
Personally, like for the main event, like for very large field events, I think 10% works better. Like when you start getting thousands and thousands and thousands of runners, I think 10% is a much better metric.
Yeah,
because you're still paying out hundreds and
I
hundreds.
agree with that.
But for the main event, exactly, pay as many people as you fucking can.
I hate to say
right.
it, but like stalling is worth so much in the bigger fields.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what I
kind
mean?
of.
So like
It is.
Becomes less so if it's 10%, I think.
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Right? Because like if stalling at 15% is like many dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
There's always going to be issues, right?
There's always going to be issues. There's always going to be. I mean, this is the beauty of it, right? If you're a TD, especially if you're a high-profile TD like Savage or Jack, you are in a position where you can start to set trends and standards moving forward, right? So, as long as they're always evaluating and examining, I think we're pretty happy with the jobs that they're doing.
Yeah.
But in general, like I think. And I don't want to speak for all of MTT culture because I don't play them all that often. I'm just kind of an observer here. But in general, I would think that the idea is that the bigger the fields, the more you want, or the less you want to reward the overall winner, right? Because so much of it is just variance at play.
Yeah, you're just being chosen.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity in these massive fields to make a certain collection of the overall MTT community healthier,
Yeah.
right? If you concentrate a lot of that money to the top, like imagine you took the extreme case where you just have a 7,000 runner field and winner takes all, right?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you just-
Like, I'd be
the
very
Gladiator
happy with,
poker.
like, say they break the record this year, maybe they get 10,000, maybe they hit that
Yeah.
10,000 mark for entries for the main event. Just keep it 10 million to first. You don't
Yeah.
have to, it doesn't have to go to 12 or 13.
Yeah,
or
just
14,
cap it at that.
right? Just have it at that, and then just put the rest of that money throughout the rest of the slots.
No,
But-
well, theoretically for them, like as a business, they want people to continually return to play this tournament, right? So it makes more sense to have more people get rewarded for finishing
right.
in the money in the tournament because it's more likely they will show up and play again.
Yeah, right. Especially like all these satellite winners. Like you win a satellite, and then you just like somehow you find your way into like the top 100, or even like the 400th place, and now you get like 35,000.
I just never thought about it, but it seems so wild that like for ninth is $1 million and first is $10 million, where you're basically getting chosen at an FT for all intents and purposes.
Well, kind of. I mean,
Sure, there's
certainly
skill edge, but
and-
like, you know what I'm saying?
especially in a field like this where the final table can potentially be softer.
It's crazy.
But yeah, I mean, like I think about it. My second deepest run ever in the main event was a couple years ago, and I went like deep into day 5 or like midway through day 5. I don't even know what I cashed for. It was so meaningless.
660.
I finished like 212th. No, I think I cashed for like 37 or 40.
Really? Yeah.
Something
When
like that.
I cashed for like I think 55,000 when my best finish was like 143 or the same. Like
Yeah.
day 5, like midway through day
Yeah, I
5.
played 3 days of TV table, and like it was a great experience.
They
But
should
like
pay you for that.
monetarily speaking, like it was, I made more in my full tilt patches in 2010 than I did for actually cashing in that event in 2021 or
Man,
whatever.
I heard they just gave away money for these patches.
I got 60,000 for
60,000?
one single day of TV coverage. I was 60, yeah. So the deal was
Brian Hart hurts.
The deal was 10K for you got 10K if you got TV coverage on an outer table, 30K if you got coverage on a secondary feature, and 50K if you got the feature.
Really?
So I busted on the feature. I started on an outer, and I got coverage because I beat Mizrachi in a big pot.
Oh,
So I got 10K for that, and then we got moved to the feature, where I ultimately ended up busting. I got 50K for that. But I had zero coverage up until that day, which was day 7, I think.
How much money did they have?
Infinite. bro.
It's so much.
And I signed full tilt, which was the worst deal. The people who got
Stars is
stars
better,
were getting way better deal. Well, it was comparable prior to the final table, but at the final table, full tilt did an escalating deal where you got like 100K for 9th, all the way up to $1 million for
if you
first.
want it. Yeah.
And you
so
got
there's just more ICM if you're a full tilt patch?
yeah,
Yeah.
and you got signed as a red pro.
ICM wasn't a thing back then, man.
Correct. And you got signed as a red pro whenever you finished first. But for stars, you just got like auto signed as a pro if you final tabled, and they just gave you like infinite for being a pro. You just got the contract or whatever.
What a world.
What a world.
Bring that world back. How do we get it back?
I think it's gone.
Come back.
I think it's gone.
No, come back.
Honestly-
We just need legislation.
I really don't think that's gonna help.
What?
I'm sorry.
How do you
I
figure?
because I don't think that. I mean, these guys were making money hand over fist, and the marketing dollars were driving everything. With legislation, I don't think that suddenly there's going to be such a massive influx of free money, right? Like, look at DraftKings and FanDuel, for example. I think they're the best example. They're in a regulated market, or they operate in the regulated space across the country. And yeah, they have more ad dollars than we've seen in the gambling industry in quite some time. But I promise you, it's nothing compared to what we saw in the early 2000s in poker.
Yeah.
Or at least like not inflation adjusted and all other things, like market adjusted, right? If you look at the poker market in 2003 compared to the gambling or the sports betting market now, poker was probably like 1/1000th of the size. And the marketing budgets might be comparable or slightly skewed towards online poker in 2003. Right. So like that's an idea of how much fucking money was being pumped into this industry for the better part of a decade. It was truly, truly endless. and it was, it was a great time to be alive. Everybody was just trying to win a tournament to get signed to a site.
Yeah,
That's
makes
all
sense.
it took. That is all it took, man. You win a tournament that was televised, you're signed.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the next young white guy from Middle America that's going to win a WPT event that we can make a pro?
Mm-hmm.
And that was literally rinse and repeat for a decade.
Yeah.
Now it's gone.
Yeah. I was grinding 510 like an idiot. Idiot.
Well,
Gosh.
I mean, you got to play the Heads Up Invitational versus someone that called you a scammer.
I did.
That went pretty well.
I did. I did not get to play the actual Heads Up Invitational, which was formerly an
the
NBC Heads
Yeah.
Up Invitational.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 10K buy-in, which back then I thought was like so big. I remember when Mercier got invited, I was like, dude, playing a 10K versus legends.
Yep.
Meanwhile, for him, it was like a fucking Tuesday.
Didn't Shannon Elizabeth play that?
Maybe.
Probably.
I was in an elevator.
There were always a mix of celebrities in there.
I was in an elevator once, and I worked up some dream scenario in my head where we lived happily ever after.
I'm sure.
I
I think
didn't-
everybody had that.
I didn't even introduce myself. Such a coward.
I played with her in the World
Shannon, if
Series
you're out
event one
there.
day. Yeah, it was
not too late.
cool. Same thing. had that dream scenario that just
Yeah.
never
She
manifested.
just immediately became Nadia. Lana has no fucking
That's so
idea.
sad,
None.
too.
None.
is so
No
bad.
idea
No
what we're
clue.
talking about.
I don't remember Shannon Elizabeth. I do remember Nadia.
American Pie. You never saw American Pie.
You know, he was born the same year that movie came out.
Yeah, I was born the same year as Star Wars. I fucking saw it.
You haven't seen Jurassic Park, you bitch.
That's fair.
Wow.
That's fair.
Damn.
No, he was being mean. No, he saw it. He's like, oh, you haven't
Holy
seen. He
shit.
said, oh, you haven't seen this? Yeah.
I haven't seen Jurassic
All
Park.
right, then.
He's right. He's not wrong.
Yeah, drink
Have
your
you?
water.
Have you seen it?
In passing.
Burke, I bet there's a lot
That's
of
beside the point.
I bet there's a lot of cult classic comedies from 1982 that you have not seen.
You know what movie I have seen?
Be careful. I'm much more prone to having seen cult classic comedies than actual classic films.
Maybe that's
from
true.
that time
Yeah.
frame.
I have seen
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction.
Okay, good.
Monty
That was
Pythons.
all the Monty Pythons,
I've seen one of those.
Stripes,
Mm-hmm.
Spaceballs,
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack.
Yeah.
You
Fast
name
Times
it.
at
All right.
Ridgemont.
I've seen Fast Times. I mean, I would call that a classic more than a cult classic, I think.
Fast Times at Ridgemont has definitely.
I feel like it fell in that collective of like the 16 Candles. Like,
Okay, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very similar to what happened in the 90s with Can't Hardly Wait, 10 Things I Hate About You.
The not another teen movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Deal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every
I love Can't Hardly Wait. You ever see Can't Hardly Wait?
Oh, what a movie,
Oh,
bro.
man.
I don't
Jennifer
even-
Love
I-
Hewitt?
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I don't even know
God.
the words that are coming out of your mouth.
Oh,
Why
man.
you messing with my flavor?
Seth Green was incredible in that movie, and I don't think anybody's
So
ever said that
good.
about a performance by Seth Green
He was
in,
great.
in the history of
Man.
well, outside of Family Guy. He's really good on Family Guy. Let's get into the shits. I need to address this tweet that I put out a few days ago because my mentions are absolutely flooded with people wanting to pitchfork me. First, I want to clear things up if it's not completely understood. Like, I like Johnathan. I respect what he does as a coach. I think he's one of the best at creating beginner content and introducing people to, the game of poker through the lens of studying. So this wasn't like some sort of personal attack. I just thought it was a complete shit take, and that's very fine. Like, we're all entitled to having some shit takes. I've had plenty.
Same.
And people don't hesitate in calling them out. It's just like we're gonna miss the mark every now and again when we're tweeting consistently, especially when we're doing it in this instance with his brand and his site in mind, where he's kind of marketing to his collective audience.
Yeah, I mean, let me just quickly. I had the whole take with Jungle at 1.3 seemed like a lot, and then like call it mixed game guys like Sean, REA, whatever. They're like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of reasonable. It's like not that much. Like, it seems decent, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I guess I just had like a bad take,
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just wrong.
Yeah.
Even though 1.3 into 50K sounds like a lot because it is, but Jungle's really fucking good.
Yeah, and I mean, like, maybe I could have just like let this one slide and not
Nah, come on.
not call it out. But the problem that I have is that it embodies this whole hustle culture bullshit that like I'm so I don't know.
I mean,
so
you're not
put
against
off by
work. You're not against.
No, of course not. Of course not. I'm just so put off by like selling the dream and framing it in a way of like you just don't try hard enough.
It's reductive. It's reductive to how much work it takes.
I think it's reductive, and I also just like I personally think that it's very dishonest. So for the record, the original tweet was, most of you can become big winners in poker. However, your lack of discipline is holding you back. Here are some key habits you must implement to build discipline and excel as a poker player. And it's like, okay, first of all, Johnathan responded very eloquently and just basically said, I'll be a little more mindful of my wording in the future.
It's got 500,000 impressions.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But the thing is like, okay, so he said he'll be more mindful of his wording in the future or whatever, but it's like, oh, this is a marketing tweet. Like, let's be clear.
Yeah, of course, it's engagement farming.
Yeah, it's engagement farming. So,
which is fine.
So you got some engagement out of it. Now let's discuss. And I think everybody thinks that my issue was him basically framing it as anybody can become a big winner, and it's not the big part that bothers me. Although I do think that that's very disingenuous. Like. Big winners are hard to fucking come by in this industry. Extremely hard to come by. But basically, he said that what he meant by big was relative to whatever stakes they were playing.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that's kind of subjective, right? When you just say big winner, like, what does that really mean?
So, like a 1-2 player winning, a couple $1,000s on average would be considered big. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's
like
right.
Monthly?
Sure.
Weekly?
Who knows? That's the thing. It's like I feel very. I feel
like it's very unfair. This, buddy?
Yeah, I feel like it's very unfair to use something ambiguous that could just be only interpreted as big meaning large, and then like walk it back and saying like, well, big's relative. If you play penny stakes and you win dollars, that's big.
Yeah, I mean, if you win $30,000 a year playing 1-2, that's big, right? It's 150 big, or it's 1,500 big blinds.
Totally agree, and I think that that's a very reasonable place to start because I would also agree that qualifies in this instance. What I'm pushing back on is the amount of people that are doing that, and I think that it's very disingenuous to imply that anybody could do that. Like anybody who tries and puts the work in could just show up and win 30 to 50,000 playing small stakes.
It's a zero-sum game, so everybody can't win, right? Like,
right. When you say theoretically, most of you can be big winners, and there's 7 big winners in the game. Well, there's not gonna be 7 big winners anymore.
Yeah, that's why I said this is utter nonsense, because most people cannot win. Period.
It's a tough game.
It's a tough game, but it's not even a zero sum. It's negative sum. The rake is taking from you, and
especially at the low stakes.
Right, when you frame it as this message is going out to low stakes players, it's like, okay, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but very few of you are ever going to beat the rake, no matter how hard you work and no matter how good you get.
It's not even bearer of bad news. It's just you being the truth sayer.
Yeah.
It's not bad news. It just is.
Right.
Sadly, I definitely drink this Kool-Aid. When I saw his tweet, I was like, man, this makes a lot of sense. I was like, this resonates with me. But then the more I thought about it, and maybe this is a bad take, but is this the equivalent of like Carl Lewis tweeting, you know what? The only thing from stopping you and being like a world-class sprinter is just putting in the work and dedicating yourself to this craft. And it's like, well, no, you also have to have fast twitch muscles, and you got to be an athlete.
And the thing is like, maybe it's not that extreme, but maybe it's like Carl Lewis tweeting out saying like, the only thing stopping you from winning a race is trying. And it's like, well, no, that's not what's stopping me from winning a race. What's stopping me from winning a race is that I'm not fast. Right? And
why do we accept that so easily for physical things, but for mental things, that's out the window?
Because it seems more like a meritocracy whenever we're talking about
mental aptitude.
Yeah. But the irony is that I think it's the opposite. I think most physical things are more of a meritocracy than things that require like great mental bandwidth. And I only say that because physical restrictions are very obvious to us.
Right.
I can't lift 2 tons.
Yeah.
I know that that's beyond comprehension, so I would never put work into attempt to lift 2 tons.
You're not going to start deadlifting cars.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to throw 95 miles an hour no matter what I do.
Right. So I just like won't put work into that arena. Right. But, and that's why I took so much issue with this, because if somebody does say, Well, in this industry, it's limitless.
The sky is the limit.
Right. If you just put in really, really, really hard work, it's a meritocracy. And the harder that you work, the more that you'll get in return. And by doing that, you could win big.
But isn't that more true in poker than it would be in like athletics?
Yes. I
Right.
would
That's
agree
what I
with that.
think. Like, I think like it is more true that like the hard, like, cause I mean,
Or is it just you believing it to
Have
be
you
true?
ever heard the term work smart, not hard?
yeah, of course.
Okay. I think that is more applicable to poker than anything else. I think hard work and physical endeavors will get you very far.
Well, I think like,
smart work
yeah.
in poker will get you very far.
Right. But I think like, they're one and the same in this instance, whereas like hard work means like doing what it takes to you know, to get to where you're studying the strategies, understanding them, and like doing what it takes to understand the strategy and then implement it, I guess. But maybe
But what does that mean?
Maybe you're right. Maybe like, yeah, you can study all you want, but then implementation is comes more natural to some people than other people.
Not even just implementation, right? Take it back to the working part. Whenever I ask you to go dig a ditch, your instructions are very clear.
Mm-hmm.
You can put in as much or as little effort into digging that ditch as you want, and your output will be directly reflective of that.
Right.
The ditch will get done faster or slower, deeper or shallower, depending upon how hard you work, right? Whenever it comes to poker, I say, go get good, right?
Right.
Sure.
And you're
Yeah.
determined to get good. You are disciplined. You will do anything that it takes to get good.
It's also abstract.
That's the thing. As a community as a whole, we don't even have an agreement at the top level of what the
What it
path to
takes,
getting good
yeah.
looks like.
We can't even say who like the best top 5 is.
Right.
Right? We know who's like in the running for.
Maybe. Just
maybe.
now, right? Like, if we look back 15 years and we say, like, who in 2008 did we consider the 5 best players in the world? They might not even be in existence right now, right? They might have just like figured something out for a short period of time. And these are the issues that I come up with or that I have against this thread, right? The call to action is develop these key habits. Like, implying that poker is somehow as simple as developing some base discipline,
Like an ABC list.
right, and then just executing in a habitual way,
Like a muscle memory type thing.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just like I have a lot of pushback against this messaging, right? And even when we look at the following thread, there are some reasonable takes. Like, he leads off with, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fell to the level of your systems," by James Clear, which I believe wholeheartedly in that quote. I think that is the most applicable thing that you could ever say about poker. This is the best advice in the thread, and it's not even remotely close.
Should have said this.
The problem is there are 7 more tweets that don't develop the system, right? There's an original tweet that says you can win big, implying like if you just develop the system, you can become a winner in this game too. But nowhere along the lines is there a call to action or advice on how to develop the system, right? It's just ways to, like, I would apply this thread to lifting weights, right? Track your progress, aka take notes.
Mm-hmm.
Eliminate distractions, aka put down your phone, right? Study, aka learn the movements. Block out dedicated times to improve. Set time aside to get to the gym. Take a break, don't play tired. Make sure you rest and recover, right? These things are all applicable to physical endeavors because it's just work in, work out, right? It's a true meritocracy.
It's very clear cut as to how you get to where you want to get to.
Correct. It's a true meritocracy. The work in equals output.
Sure,
right?
and then people will be like, oh, genetics, whatever, but at the same time, it's like you
Yeah.
will reach your limitations.
Right. And when you start to look at like genetics and things like that, now you're talking about like outlier scenarios, 1%ers, where it's like, okay, maybe you can't become a bodybuilder, maybe you can't become a professional athlete, but you'll get in better shape. You will see results. You apply these things to poker, they could just take you down a complete and utter rabbit hole of nonsense, right?
There's going to be a lot of trial and error and mental questioning as to if you're doing things in the right place, like the right way anyways.
Right.
Where am I getting?
Right.
And variance too, like if you don't understand variance correctly, you might be doing everything you need to be doing and more and think that you're the dumb one.
Exactly. Or vice versa, right? When it's positive variance, you may be...
You're a genius.
Exactly. Right? So like, it's not that this advice is bad. I just think it's like very incomplete and very misleading with the messaging of like, this is what it takes.
Kind of for the wrong industry.
kind of just like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I just don't like the hustle culture tweets or messagings, right? Like, I love Goggins because his message is very clear. Like, you know,
who's going to carry the boats?
Yeah, it's just be a hardened individual who's willing to test yourself and get out there and do it day in and day out. But he's strictly talking about, you know, physical endeavors and pushing your mental boundaries, I guess, to what you can endure. But all of that's like very clear cut. It's basically just saying like, don't be soft, right? None of that applies to intellectually advanced strategies. Developing strategies is fucking hard. If it wasn't, we'd all be working for the CIA and, you know...
We'd all be big winners in poker.
Yeah, we'd all be big winners in poker. We'd all be developing tech companies. We'd all be doing these things that require deep level root cause analysis and highly strategic thinking, right? Like, would be generals of the military, or we would be, you know, the heads of
war games.
Yeah, we'd be the heads of tech companies that are moving big pieces. But like, that shit is fucking hard, and so is this game. And like, one of the, you know, when I was kind of pushing back in the thread, I was like, you know, do you think anybody is capable of competing in a chess tournament? And it's like, well, the answer is obviously no, right? There's a barrier of entry.
Yeah.
You have to be a certain level in order to even compete. And is everybody in the world capable of that through sheer work? Probably not. Yeah. Right? Maybe. I mean, if they have like good rote memorization skills and they can,
but that's, you know, that's outside of the
exactly.
That's outside the norm.
Right now, that's not everybody. Now you've disqualified people who don't have good rote memorization skills. Right?
You didn't even insult the guy. You just said it's a bad take. Why are you a bully?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, you're not a bully. You just said this is a bad take because it is.
I mean, I was very dismissive with my language, right? Like, I certainly could have worded it differently. Could
have been nicer.
Yeah, of course. But nobody sees it. If you just say like, well, I agree, or if the tweet reads as this instead. While I respect what Johnathan does for the poker industry in introducing beginners to strategic content, I heavily disagree with the take that all it requires in order to win in this game is to put in the hard work.
And then you make a tweet thread and I've already scrolled away.
Of course. And not only that, people still somehow read into the tone of that as me being a dick.
Well, yeah,
so it's like, if I'm
like
going to be dismissive, it's like if I'm going to be dismissive, I'm going to do it in 4 words. I'm just going to say this is nonsense.
Utter nonsense.
Yeah, I think I like the second response more.
This is utter nonsense?
No, the one where you're like eloquent and long-winded. I don't know, man.
Eloquent and open-minded.
It just seems mean. I like Johnathan.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, like, this is not a personal attack. This isn't a character assassination in any capacity. This is just saying, like, this take is shit. It is. It's a shit take. It's okay. I have so many shit takes. We all do, right? Like, if you're going to be in this world where you're constantly putting content up on the internet, whether it's spoken or written, you're going to have a lot of shit takes.
I'm going through your tweets now so I can quote tweet it and say this is other nonsense.
Do you know how often like we have comments in the YouTube channel where it's like, I got some small detail wrong and like now all of a sudden the entire take is dismissed or whatever? It's like, fine. Like, you're not wrong. I don't know, man. Like, I used to be very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Diplomatic?
Yeah, very diplomatic.
I like Switzerland.
Sure. I used to be incredibly diplomatic about how I worded things to ensure that I never ruffled any feathers. And all it led to was me getting shit. Like, literally people just dumping on me over and over and over again, where it just became this, why are you sticking your nose in when you don't even really take a stance? You're speaking out of pocket. You're not an authority on these things. And it's because you use passive language.
Right. You're fence sitting by using fence sitting language.
Yeah. If you use this passive language where you're trying to kind of like skate over the actual thing that you disagree with, and you try to fluff everything up, everybody gets caught up in the distraction of the fluff.
Yeah, so Twitter's
the
a bad
meteor message
space.
is missed.
It's like a bad place to try to go with nuance on Twitter, where if you just say strong disagree, here's why, right? Then you have to make a fucking tweet thread.
Exactly.
Where all you could do is say, I disagree with this, and I'm going to talk about it more in an open forum discussion, like here.
So over the last year, that's, I'll be very blunt about it. That's been my social media strategy. And I told Daniel this when he texted me. He was like, you were a little harsh in that take. And I was like, listen, I understand that, especially for those of us who have like had our takes torn down at points, it's easy to get like kind of miffed by certain language where it's like, well, that was rude. That was mean. You know what I mean? But we have to see the space for what it is in a bigger picture and like look at other spaces for comparison's sake. We're all just in some regard figureheads in an industry, right? And we don't always have to have civil conversations with one another in private over things that go out publicly. It's okay to just start a conversation for the public to engage in of agree, disagree type of stuff.
Sure. Like he's allowed to tweet this stuff and you can say, I disagree.
Right. And that's all it was. It wasn't a fuck you. It wasn't I hate you. It wasn't you're a bad person or anything along those lines. That's where I agree with everybody that there's no place for that. Right. And you see some of that in some of the other spaces, like people go after Nadav every now and again and a few other thought leaders or whatever. And it's like, okay, whatever, like it is what it is. And it happens in our space every now and again too, but you can't conflate the two, or I mean, we shouldn't conflate the two. Right. And I think that like, whenever I was replying, I was like, listen, like, I understand what you're saying. And initially I had typed out probably 200 characters of me disagreeing with this take and why. And then I realized like those tweets perform very poorly.
It doesn't hit. And you still get the blowback. Like people are still just going to hard disagree, and that's fine. They're allowed to. But now I'm not accomplishing what I set out to do. So I was like, Twitter is for short, burst, hard-hitting things. Podcast is for nuance. Yeah, I think it's so quick for people these days to, when you look at the tweet, your quote tweet of his thing, think that you're attacking him, or you're just attacking the stance. It's just that ego shot of, oh, Matt's being a bully now that he like won some stuff or has this like positive standing, where it's not.
The amount of people who jumped in the thread and said, I can't believe you would call Jay Little a scammer.
I know.
Were just insane to me. I was like, what on earth did I even, what did I even begin to say that implies that he's a scammer? And the only thing that I can conclude is that they all understood that it was a marketing tweet to begin with. And they think that I'm trying to imply that because he has a poor take in a marketing tweet, that he's no longer a competent businessman or coach or whatever the case may be, which is simply not true.
Just a bad take.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, some people are going to agree with it.
Yeah, disagree with me. That's fine. Let's have some discourse.
Yeah,
Who cares?
There's no right wrong.
Yeah,
in that sense. I just also think that it's not a great
serious, bro.
I just also think it's not a great take, and like people will kind of say, oh, but I guess in my case, like I was going through the fucking chat, it's like, oh, like didn't Landon work hard? It's like, yeah, I worked hard, but I also know that I'm a survivor. Right.
That was the big thing I was trying to convey.
Positive variance worked in my favor, you know, and even when stuff didn't work out, like when I was playing mid stakes, playing 1-2 online, I had a 3-month downswing where I broke even from a dollar standpoint, but was winning 3 big blinds per 100 over 100K hands at 200. Where maybe if I just said, oh, I'm done playing, this game's too hard, I'm going to quit.
Exactly.
I would have dropped out of poker, but I didn't want to do that. So I persevered in whatever that means in that instance, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also like, you know, you don't want to, not to be like to confuse people, but like to say that not to work hard, like not saying don't work hard, or like you're saying like
right.
You
this is a good point.
You do have to work hard to be successful in anything you do, right? So it's not about like, oh yeah, working hard is not the issue, right? Like because I don't know, like I think that's.
You're right. That was a big message that was lost.
Right.
The big correlation I see is that both life and poker have a lot of similarities in the sense that they're not true meritocracies. Variance plays a heavy hand, or variance has a heavy hand in outcomes, right? But over the aggregate and over the long run, that variance gets kind of leveled out a bit. And it looks a little more like a meritocracy.
Yeah.
So of course, in order to succeed, you have to try.
Right.
You have to do all the hard things. Mm-hmm. But what I'm trying to say is don't let your arrogance get ahead of yourself and believe that if you do all of those things, it results in what you're set out to achieve. Because the fact of the matter is, if you take 2 people who put in the exact same amount of work and have the exact same qualifications and all like identical to a T, they can have two very different outcomes. Two very different paths.
I think like you actually like you kind of like live this, right, with baseball.
Yeah.
Because like you worked so hard, you tried as hard as you could, that all you wanted to do was be a professional baseball player. And you did everything you possibly could to put yourself in that position. But at the end of the day, not every single person who works as hard as they can is going to be in the show.
In the same
it's
instance,
the same thing here.
There are people that are super talented and don't work hard and still make the league.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% true.
It's true.
Yeah.
Some people just like show up, are genetically gifted, and just like bang, don't
That's
95.
true. That is true. Right.
No problem.
Yeah, you're always going to have outliers, and you're always going to have people that fall dead smack in the middle of the bell curve and drift one way or the other because of variance.
Right. But if you want to be the best poker player you can be, then you work as hard as you possibly can, and then wherever you fall, you fall. But like it's but it's not like it's. You work as hard as you can, and then you're just Justin Bonomo.
I think there's
or you work as hard as you can, and you just fail.
There's just a lack of clear, like mental clarity when it comes to a game of variance, or people think there's more in their control than there actually is. You can control working hard, you can control studying hard, you can control putting in volume,
Exactly.
right? Especially in a game like call it cash, which is more consistent online. You have a win rate of X over 1 million hands, you're gonna see your win rate. You play MTTs for 2,000 games, you could be a X winning player and just lose. But for some reason, we don't want to accept that. Why?
Well, that's the other thing, we're talking about like winning big or whatever. If we were able to quantify this in what average win rates look like and say, instead of like you two could win big, say you two could win 3 big blinds per 100, or you two could win 5 big blinds per hour. If we were quantifying that as the ceiling, or, maybe the aggregate or the average response, something along those lines, right? It doesn't hit. People don't look at that and go like, oh my God, that's the best that I can do with a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
That's not going to incentivize me. But more to Brian's point, to be abundantly clear, this was not a pushback against the notion that hard work and discipline yields results.
Right.
It was a pushback against the notion of not acknowledging that every single one of us that has had a long, bustling poker career is full and riddled with survivorship bias.
Yeah, good example. When you went broke, you could just quit poker. Instead, you didn't, and you
Sure.
stayed. People are going to call you lucky.
I think one of the best examples is somebody like Jason Koon, who self-admittedly will say that he was just kind of like resting on his laurels for a decade plus, where he was just always trying to figure it out, relying on intuition, et cetera, et cetera. And then he fell into the right group, got a hold of the best study tools out there, was given direction, was given, a clear path to follow to getting better, and now he's one of the best players in the world.
Yep.
Notice the difference there. It's not that he wasn't working hard before. His work ethic did not change. His discipline certainly did not change. I told you one of the most impactful things that has ever been said to me by any one of my peers was in 2012 or 2011. I bagged chip lead of day one, I was like chip leader of day one in a 1K event, and I punted it all off to bust off of like 30 bigs with like 10 hands to go. And I saw Jason at the table next to me. He had like 6 big blinds. So I think I rejammed deuces for like 30.
Nice.
Bust, can't be there, because I just had 200 blinds a few minutes ago and I'm over it.
Maybe it's okay.
No, it was terrible. Jason bags like, dust, literal crumbs. 2 days later, Hanks makes that final table. And I go, sweat him. Lo and behold, Jason's fucking there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how on earth are you at this final table? You had 5 big blinds on day one with like no hands left to play for the night. Like I busted with like 3 hands to play in the night. And he goes, you just have to have the heart, bro. And it's because he was that fucking disciplined. But it wasn't disciplined to any sort of system. It wasn't disciplined to any sort of, comprehension of how the game truly worked at a mathematical level or anything along those lines. He was just fucking disciplined to what he felt was right in the moment. And he did okay. He was a good pro. He wasn't Jason Koon now. He's literally on the short list of one of the 5 best players in the world now.
Yeah, it's funny. Like one of the podcasts that I heard when I was in college before I dropped out that made me want to take poker super seriously was a podcast that Joey did with Jason, where Jason basically said, yeah, working hard, super important, discipline, super important. Don't take things for granted and realize if you put enough work, you'll probably end up being successful if you stick with it.
Yeah.
Not, if you do all these things, like you're definitely going to succeed. But if you allow yourself the chance to succeed, it's going to happen more likely than not.
Right. And that's to put a bow on this, that's my biggest problem with the thread, right? Because two things could have happened using Jason as the example. Number one, he could have never found that path, right? And he could have continued to beat his head against the wall like a million other grinders that we all know and love have been doing for 2 decades.
How have you not had him on the podcast? But anyways.
Why? Why do you do this?
I'm sorry.
He could have continued to beat his head against the wall for many decades, like a bunch of grinders that we all know, and never gotten anywhere, right? And his work ethic and his discipline would have never changed. It would have been wholeheartedly invested in this game, but he would have just been capped based off of the lack of system in place to get better, right?
Well, he'd need more variance to go his way.
Correct. Or he could realize that he's beating his head against the wall, realize that there's no path forward, and quit. Both of those things occur. He's not Jason Koon as we know him. He's just out of the game, right? Or he's some shit reg that we just mention in passing as a guy who's been around forever and doesn't have results.
Well, that's most people that have been around for a while.
Exactly. They don't lack discipline. They don't lack work. That's not what's stopping them from being big winners. They show up every fucking day. What's stopping them is knowledge. Knowledge is what it takes to be a big winner in this game. Knowledge and the ability to execute on that knowledge. And I hate to break it to the audience, but it's a small percentage of you guys. And that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to play this game to be the next Jason Koon or to even be the alpha in your 2-5 game, right? The goal is just to continually get better and better and better and unlock more principles to game theory and how this game works day after day after day. That will seep into your everyday life, especially if you're not playing for a profession, right? Mm-hmm. And that's truly what it means to win big in this instance, in my opinion.
Yeah, win rate doesn't have to prove that, right? If you're just like having a good time, getting better, getting smarter, learning new things, like you're winning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to pay a little bit more for it.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for us. We're going to be back again tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. I got to get to the Bellagio. They got a seat waiting for me. Before we go, huge RIP to the man, Stan Savran, Pittsburgh legend.
Oh, no. I didn't know.
Recently passed, was a big part of Pittsburgh sports. Stan and Guy, they were the ones.
Pittsburgh store. They were Pittsburgh sports.
That's right.
Yeah,
they were the ones. So huge loss today for Yinzers abroad. Big shout out to him. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. See ya.
Peace.